Hello, everyone. My name is Carla Nooijen. I work as a senior researcher at Permobil, and I will be presenting today about this man who has Okinawan Neurogenic amyotrophy, talking about difficult words there. And it's a case report. So the head of this research study was Dr. Masahiko Taniguchi, and he works at the Department of Surgery at St. Mary's Hospital in Japan. And this was done in collaboration with Rachel Fabiniak, who was supposed to be here today, but unfortunately couldn't make it. So just to disclose that Rachel and I are both employed at Permobil, but there was no financial support further in this study. So Okinawan Neurogenic Muscular Atrophy is also called HMSNP. And Okinawa is a Japan prefecture, and it's comprised of 150 islands in the East China Sea between Taiwan and Japan's mainland. So it's a really remote, area, and kind of closed off from the rest of the country. This disease was first discovered in 1997 and has only been reported in Okinawa, although similar diseases have been found outside. So it has suggested to have started from a single founder, in the limited research that is available about it, but it's thought to be a gene mutation, and it's thought to be autosomal dominant, like Huntington's disease. But unfortunately, the exact prevalence is unknown. But in this area, Okinawa, it is a relatively common disease. So the clinical presentation of it is an adult onset spinal muscular atrophy combined with sensory neuropathy. It gradually leads to the inability to walk and respiratory failure, and in advanced stages to ventilatory management. The onset is in the late 30s, which is then only after people have had children, and this is also one of the reasons why they think it has this relatively high prevalence, as people don't know it already when they have passed it on to the next generation. In the 50s, it's typically they typically need support for swallowing and respiration, and then persons typically die by 70 years of age. And in Japan, the average life expectancy is around 85. So it's a slow progression for years. So I said this is a case study about a 65-year-old male. He is a music teacher of a government official, and also thought to be very much of a mentor of this particular government official, maybe even more so than actually being his musical teacher. And he was using a folding manual wheelchair that was attendant pushed. And then when the disease progressed further, this government official, he wanted to do something, and he wanted to help his music teacher / mentor, and he proposed a standing power wheelchair with the idea that it would help heal. It would help heal his health condition, and so that's when Permobil got involved in this project. And of course, we had to do some very clear explanation about the expectations of the power wheelchair, and adjust that, and make sure that it was, of course, also safe to stand for this person. But after that, actually, this government official then he provided this person the standing power wheelchair. Just to give you a little bit of background on the situation in Japan, there's no funding for power wheelchairs, and there's no ATP or seating specialist involved. Basically, if people get a wheelchair prescribed, they go to the pharmacy, and some salesperson will give them sell them some type of equipment. There's also little or no involvement from a physical or occupational therapist. Of course, this is dependent on the location where you're at, but definitely in this remote area, it doesn't look very good. And older persons would typically get a folding manual wheelchair. So the protocol that was used, that I said, he had a power standing wheelchair and he was using it for 8 hours a day from November 2021 to October 2022. And as houses are typically too small for a power wheelchair, this person was using the wheelchair at the music center, and he was actually going there then every day. He was instructed to perform 3 standing and 3 reclining sessions per day, with 3 hours in each position in total. So not 3 hours in a row, but in different bounds, varying these different positions. We actually don't have a record of the adherence to the protocol. It was reported for the first period of the study how many days he was in the wheelchair. And you can see that he wasn't in the wheelchair in February and very little days in March. This was due to the COVID restrictions. So he wasn't able to go to this music center. So he wasn't able to sit in his wheelchair. But other than that, he used it quite regularly. And even though we don't have this exact data on if he had done all the standing and reclining sessions, as it is in the Japanese culture, to adhere more to the rules than some of the other cultures we do expect that there has been a significant amount of tilted or of standing and reclining. So evaluations were performed by a doctor, and it was done before the power wheelchair delivery, which was done in October 2021, in December, in March, in June, and then again in October 2022. A pain assessment was done, pressure ulcer assessment, fasting blood glucose was taken. He looked into lower extremity edema, participation, quality of life, and a caregiver report. We'll go over this one by one. So starting with pain. So this was the numerical pain rating scale on a scale from 0 to 10, which asks for your pain level over the past week. So we have three scores there. It's the current pain, the best pain level, and the worst pain level. So if we look at the scores for October, before he got the power wheelchair, so he was in this folding manual wheelchair, the current pain score was 6, the best was 2, and the worst was 9. And then you see in December that he had a significant improvement in that, or at least the scores look much better. This stayed like that over the whole period of the use of the power wheelchair. So in October 2022, all the scores were 1, 1, 1. So low pain levels. For pressure injury, this person had, at the start of the study, he had a pressure injury of stage 3, which was assessed with the design tool. It was there, the depth was rated as a lesion that extends into the dermis, and the size of it was between 16 square centimeters and 36 square centimeters, or 6 to 14 inches. So pretty large pressure injury. And we see that in December, this pressure injury already started healing. It was almost gone in March, gone in June, and nothing came back in October. So that was very good. Then fasting blood samples were taken every day, only up until May, so not for the full year. But you see at the start of the study, it was 148. So this indicates diabetes. And then we see that the levels dropped after starting using the power wheelchair. And we see also that they go up again in February, March. Just to remind you also that this was the period of the COVID restrictions where I wasn't actually able to use the power wheelchair. Now we don't know if it has that immediate effect, but it's quite interesting to see that peak coming up there, and then after restrictions were over, you see it also going down again. So these are the results for edema. And for the right leg in blue and for the left leg in green. And we see that that edema reduced over the study period, and it reduced until their June, and kind of March. It kind of stabilized over the rest of the period of the study. Again, to remind you that there was this period where we actually didn't use the power standing wheelchair as much, and here we don't see any effect of that for edema. So it didn't increase again, or at least not with the sensitivity that this was measured with. The wheelchair outcome measure was used to measure participation outside of the home. This was only measured in October when he still had his manual wheelchair, and in December, so just after he had received his power wheelchair. And 5 participation goals were set, of which 3 showed improvements. So the first goal was getting to relieve his own back when relieve their own back pain when he wanted to. The second goal was when they were at work, being able to get into their own rest position when they need to. The third goal was being able to take a rest position during travel. And because of the COVID restrictions, he wasn't actually able to travel. So this was not rated at follow-up. The fourth one was going to a nearby park and being able to go around the park and standing with their friends. And also here an improvement in satisfaction was seen. And the last goal was being able to stand up to give their award certificates to the award ceremony winners of the music festival, which unfortunately then got canceled due to COVID. So that wasn't possible. So the next result was quality of life. And here we see improvements in the psychological and environment domains. We can go over the different domains one by one. They're all transform scores on a scale from 0 to 100. So the first domain is physical health, which was around 50 in October, and then over the rest of the period after you had received the power wheelchair, you see that scores are higher until October, basically, where we're almost back at baseline level. So no improvement there, we can conclude. For the second domain, the psychological domain, the score was 38 in October. And then after that, there was a large increase over the rest of the period that was stable. So this indicates an improvement in psychological related quality of life. The third domain was social relationships, and here we saw quite stable over the whole study period. So not as much effect of receiving a power wheelchair, and also this decrease in October in 2022. So we do need to remember also that this is a progressive disease, and although it's slowly progressing, this might have had an effect on quality of life, obviously, as well. And lastly, there we have the environment. So we see that in October it was 44, and then over the rest of the time period, we see it was higher. So we conclude that there was an increase in quality of life there. Caregiver reports. The individual no longer needs assistance on steep slopes and thresholds. The individual can adjust their own posture with the power seat functions after transferring. Seat elevate assists the caregiver with their positioning with assisting the individual. And the combination of tilt and recline assists in oral and medical interventions. Alrighty, just to round up a few considerations. Obviously, there were some challenges of this study included, which were the COVID restrictions in Japan, which were also really strict. There was a limitation in communication due to language and training barriers. So the measurements were performed by a medical doctor instructed by Rachel, who unfortunately doesn't speak Japanese. Time for her to learn if you're listening in somewhere. Then a translator was there in the middle that had only limited medical knowledge. So it's kind of this whispering game where it's hard to get pass over everything exactly as you would want to. There was no device measure data of use. He was in one of the permobile chairs that we would have in other regions being able to connect, but we are not able to do that in Japan, unfortunately. So we couldn't check how often he was actually standing and using recline. On the positive side of things, the persons involved in the study have all been really impressed of what this wheelchair was able to do for this individual, and they are now planning a larger study. So it's very exciting to see also what that would lead up to and what kind of discussions that can further trigger in Japan to hopefully improve the situation for individuals with this health condition. So lastly, quote of our case person. Before, it was painful to stay in a wheelchair and I had to meditate and concentrate mentally to endure the pain. Now I look forward to getting into the power wheelchair every morning because it's heaven on the chair. Thank you very much. And I'm happy to take any questions.